Hello and good evening. My name is Tengku Elmi Azlina binti Tengku Muda from National University of Malaysia. I'll be presenting the relationship between adversity quotient, emotional intelligence, and leadership skills among pre-university students. Firstly, I would like to start with the introduction. Adversity points on hardship or prolonged difficulties that students may face either at school or in society. It deals with the way individuals rebuild themselves and bounce back after facing failures and challenges. This relates to the nature of foundation program in Malaysia, in which students are constantly being challenged during their pre-university year. Overpacked schedules and burdensome expectations require them to adapt so that they will not be left behind. Students with better adversity quotient AQ might have better coping strategies towards problems and turn the challenges into opportunity. Briefly, AQ determines how a person can adequately withstand adversity and their ability to deal with it. Next, emotional intelligence EQ was used as a term by Sullivan Mayer for the first time. They referred to it as an intelligence from which individuals recognize, motivate, and manage feelings. EQ is the ability to acknowledge our own and others' emotions in a way to inspire and manage our relationships and ourselves, according to Collins and Cooper. The importance of leadership education for today's undergraduate students cannot be underestimated. In their future careers, undergraduate students will experience the unpredictable global market of today's work environment, according to Kearns and Garner. To succeed, students will need these aspects of leadership, the ability to find and synthesize diverse sources of information, to manage self and empower others. Moving on, the objective of this research are to identify the level of adversity quotient, emotional intelligence, and leadership skills among pre-university students, and also to investigate the relationship between adversity quotient, emotional intelligence, and leadership skills among pre-university students. Moving on to the statement problem, pre-university is phase where adolescents begin their adventure in academic after leaving high school's year. Various types of pre-university options are offered, such as diploma, matriculation, foundation program, and A-level. In Malaysia, foundation program is open for youth aged 17 to 20 years old as soon as after they finish their Malaysian Certificate of Education. Foundation program not only allows students to graduate earlier as it only takes 1 year to be completed, but it also comes with promising workload and stress as the courses were crammed to be finished within that period. This situation encouraged the researcher to look at the students' ability in handling adversities, emotion, and developing their leadership skills while they are studying in the foundation program. Now, I would like to move on to the methodology that we used. Firstly, we used sampling method. This study was conducted on the students from UKM's foundation program. To ensure appropriate number of sample, systematic random sampling was utilized to select respondents from a total of 152 foundation program students. Thus, the respondents were selected from every second name from the 152 foundation program students name list until the total respondents equal to 108 respondents. However, the total number of respondents were extended to 119 respondents. The second method that we use is research instrument. In this study, 3 questionnaire surveys were utilized to achieve the objective of this study, which are adversity quotient profile, Malaysia Emotional Quotient Inventory, and Malaysian Leadership Audit Trail Inventory. The first questionnaire is the Adversity Quotient Profile or Adversity Response Profile 2001, developed by Dr. Paul G. Stoltz. It is a self-rating questionnaire that measures individuals' adversity level responding with different adverse situations with 5-point Likert scale. ARP survey comprises items developed based on the 4 core dimensions with the Cronbach alpha of 0.63. Next, EQ was measured through the scores on Malaysia Emotional Quotient Inventory, MEQI, developed by Noria Ishak 2007. MEQI has 7 components with a total of 182 items. The respondents were asked to indicate their level of emotional intelligence by responding to the 7 areas of components, namely spiritual, self-regulation, self-awareness, empathy, social skill, maturity, and self-motivation. The inventory has the reliability value of 0.973. Finally, Malaysian Leadership Audit Trail Inventory (MLATI) survey form was used to measure leadership skills. Developed by Elmi 2013, This questionnaire consists of 7 areas with a total of 51 items. The components of the inventory are service strategy and leadership model, recruit, evaluation and honor, deploy, building leadership, engagement and retainment, good line with human resources. The reliability of this questionnaire was found to be 0.823. Now, let us move on to the results. As you can see on the slide, Table 4.1 shows the level of adversity quotient of pre-university students. I will explain further on my next slide. Table 4.1 shows that the level of the respondents' AQ when taken as a whole is moderate. M equal to 3.3227, ST equal to 0.66434. Asasi Pintar students recorded the highest score in the dimensions of control, M equal to 3.7109, SD equal to 0.64713, and ownership, M equal to 3.8050, SD equal to 0.61477. Meanwhile, dimensions of reach and endurance show the moderate score of M equal to 2.9765, ST equal to 0.77817, and M equal to 2.6387, SD equal to 0.68805, respectively. Next, as you can see on Table 4.2, it shows the level of emotional intelligence of pre-university students. To explain further, Table 4.2 shows the overall score of the respondents' EQ is high, M equal to 4.0762, ST equal to 0.33940. The students scored high in all components too, except for 2 which are self-awareness, action with value, M equal to 1.5746, ST equal to 0.3825, and empathy action with value M equal to 3.4521, ST equal to 0.59913. Next, Table 4.3 shows the level of emotional intelligence of pre-university students. We will explain further on the next slide. As you can see on the previous slide, Table 4.3 shows the level of leadership skills scored by the students. It portrays that the students recorded a high score, M equal to 3.8530, ST equal to 0.27019, along with the components except for good line with human resources, with moderate score, M equal to 3.4503, ST equal to 0.36860. Moving on, Table 4.4 shows the correlation of EQ and AQ. We will see further on the next slide. Table 4.4 reveals that the respondents' adversity quotient and emotional intelligence has no significant relationship. Despite no significant relationship between adversity quotient and emotional intelligence, there is correlation within the components as shown in Table 4.5, while the rest of the components that are not mentioned has no significant relationship. However, the correlation is very low for 1. Control and self-regulation, 2. Control and self-motivation, 3. Ownership and self-awareness action, but low correlation between endurance and empathy action. It shows that the correlation between the components of AQ and EQ was very low except for correlation between endurance and empathy. Next, as you can see on the slide, Table 4.5 shows the correlation of EQ and AQ. To explain further, despite no significant relationship between adversity quotient as to emotional intelligence, there are correlation between of the components as shown by the Table 4.5, while the rest of the components that not mentioned has no significant relationship. However, the correlation between the components of adversity quotient and emotional intelligence was very low, except correlation between endurance and empathy action marked low. Moving on to Table 4.6, it shows the correlation of AQ and leadership skills. Table 4.6 reveals that the respondents' AQ and leadership skills has no significant relationship. There is also no correlation between the components of AQ and leadership skills. Meanwhile, Table 4.7 shows correlation of EQ and leadership skills. Table 4.7 shows that the respondent's EQ has a significant relationship with leadership skills with moderate coefficient of correlation of 0.415. Furthermore, Table 4.8 shows the regression of EQ and leadership skills. I will explain further on the next slide. To continue, Table 4.8 displays the statistics of regression for emotional intelligence (EQ) towards leadership skills. The components were broken down into 28 components and only 5 components show significant value, which are empathy, P equal to 0.44, trustworthy, P equal to 0.057, influencing others, P equal to 0.025, conflict management, P equal to 0.013, and changes catalyst, P equal to 0.028. Those components give the most effects towards leadership skills of the students. Lastly, table 4.9 shows regression of EQ and AQ. These are the results and we will explain further on our next slide. To further discuss, table 4.9 shows the regression of emotional intelligence EQ towards adversity quotient AQ. Based on the components analyzed, only 4 components show significant value less than 0.05. For example, emotional awareness P equal to 0.004, self-confidence P equal to 0.002, commitment P equal to 0.016, and optimism P equal to 0.039. These 4 components have the highest effect towards adversity quotients of the students. Now we have come to the last part of our discussion. To conclude, based on the findings, the following are the conclusions that can be derived from this study. Asasi Pintar students have significantly little control and influence in adverse situations. For adversity quotient components, reach and endurance dimensions of Asasi Pintar students fall in the moderate level, while for control and ownership dimensions of Asasi Pintar students fall in the high level. Meanwhile, endurance negatively influences Asasi Pintar students' empathy, action. Thank you.